Yesterday, when I covered the nightly riots in Portland, I said that Trump was definitively correct. Why? Because the rioters had returned en masse to the federal courthouse and the Justice Center, and I believe they were also rioting in front of a police precinct, and the police couldn't get control of it. Well, now, I gotta say, Trump was absolutely correct about basically everything. The state police are retreating. They're giving up, and they're returning to regular assignments. Now, why were the state police brought in? Well, they said over and over again, and you've heard it, that the feds were causing the violence, that Trump's secret police, blah, blah, blah. So Trump, the DHS, they're like, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll keep the DHS law enforcement in the courthouse if you can keep your streets safe and stop the rioters. And then something interesting happened. The Multnomah County District Attorney straight up said, we're not going to prosecute these people. So the Oregon State Police, who are supposed to be now filling in for the feds, are like, if we arrest them and you let them go, what are we doing out here? So they left. So I don't know what's going to happen now, but Trump's, I guess the DHS is going to have to come back. And this is, I got to say, this is everything Trump could have wished for. You could not have played out a more perfect scenario for Donald Trump. You know why? He did get bad press when it came to the federal law enforcement that were guarding the federal courthouse. It happened. They went for it. Now, what's the media going to say? I'm sorry, man. The narrative is fractured. You can't keep playing these games assuming everyone, you can fool some of the people, all the time and all the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And that's what's happening right now. You're going to start seeing people say, hey, wait a minute. You mean they're still rioting en masse in front of the courthouse? I thought Trump withdrew the feds. Oh, that was such a big mistake on the part of the media. It will backfire and blow up in their face. What's that? You said the feds withdrew. Why are there still riots? Why are the police retreating? The reality was the feds never withdrew. They're still in the courthouse. But maybe, Trump could probably have the DHS just stand down and be like, no, let him go for it. Just let him romp about and burn. Because now he's going to be like, but you asked me to withdraw. You said it was my fault. They have set themselves up to fail, and it is disastrous. Now, look, I'm laughing, I know, but the destruction in Portland has gone too far. Local businesses downtown are saying there's no business. The cities are crumbling. It's happening everywhere. And this is what you get. I got to say it under Democratic leadership, because there are very few big cities run by Republicans, and the few top cities that aren't having this. At least as far as I can tell. San Diego seems to be fine. Their mayor is a Republican. You look at a lot of other Republican cities and states, you don't see this. Now, of course, many of the larger cities do tend to be Democrat, and that doesn't absolve them of responsibility. Maybe there's something about their leadership that's causing these kinds of problems. I think it's fair to say 100% that's true. And I'll tell you exactly what it is. First of all, the feds were defending the courthouse. Well, the media and the politicians all lied. The state police defending the courthouse. But the Democrats said, we don't intervene, we don't make arrests, and now we release. So the cops are like, okay, I'm done. What am I supposed to do? They're going to keep coming back out every single night. You just release them with no charges. The police in Portland, not just the state police, are saying straight up, we only arrest people after they commit a crime. And the DA is like, well, the chaos of the moment. That's actually what he said. He said the chaos of a protest environment. My response is there is no chaos at a protest environment. I mean, sure, maybe in the big march with everyone waving their little flags, you might drop your phone and then you can't find out where it went because everyone's walking and someone steps on it. That's chaos. But when we're talking about someone assaulting an officer and then being released, no, that's a riot. Okay, it's a riot when you do this. Check this out. Let's read the news here. I just want to say straight up, Trump has been handed a golden ticket on this one. Absolutely. Now Kayleigh McEnany, Trump, anybody else can come out and be like, what's going on in Portland? They complain about our Homeland Security police officers defending a courthouse. The ACLU has called for disbanding the DHS, but the riots and violence persist worse than ever. And the state police have to retreat. That's a golden ticket for Trump, man. Let's read. And mind you, Oregon Live is biased in favor of these people. They say, Oregon State Police on Thursday pulled out the approximately 100 troopers helping both federal officers and Portland police in responding to nightly protests in the city that have often ended in confrontations with demonstrators. Violent rioters. Oh, that's right. Demonstrators. Could you imagine if the state police were actually standing there and a bunch of people were demonstrating with signs and the cops were like, oh no, we can't handle the violence of people waving little flags and cheering? Because that's not what's happening. The police have no problem waving and smiling when someone bullhorns. The police do have a problem when bricks get thrown at their heads. State police committed to 2 weeks, and that 2 weeks ended today, said spokesman Captain Timothy R. Fox. We're in a county that's not going to prosecute this criminal behavior. There it is. You reap what you sow, residents of Portland. I know. I have sympathy for the people there who are worried about what's going on. But listen, this is a wake up call to everybody else. You get what you vote for. You get what you ask for. And if you lay back and you ignore what's going on, this is what happens. The extremists, the zealots, start voting for their extremist zealot politicians while you sit back in your comfort. And then all of a sudden, there's violent riots going on for 76 nights now? Depending on whose count. Some people say it's even higher. 76 or so? I lost count, honestly. And it's because the prosecutor was like, yeah, cut him loose. Let him bust stuff up more. We don't care. And now the cops are like, we're out. Bye-bye. So who's going to defend anybody now? You got violent rioters rampaging through residential neighborhoods. It's not an exaggeration. Oregon Live even wrote about it. Neighborhoods are starting to get angry because these people are going to their neighborhoods with bullhorns, chanting things in bullhorns like no justice, no sleep at 3 a.m. Yeah, too bad. You get what you vote for, Portland. It was a pointed reference when he said they're not going to prosecute to Tuesday's announcement by new Multnomah County District Attorney Mike Schmidt that his office won't pursue many of the charges against demonstrators. Demonstrators, look at this, including disorderly conduct, interfering with a police officer, and even riot in some circumstances. Okay, hold on. You called them demonstrators and then literally say they're charged with riot. We are truly living in some bizarro nightmare world. How long does Oregon Live and any other outlet think they're going to get away with talking like this? Regular people are going to be like, wait, hold on. Demonstrations? Why are they arresting demonstrators? At first, many people probably heard demonstrators got arrested. And they thought in their mind, people singing Kumbaya and waving their hands. And they were like, what's happening? Trump's secret police. Then they heard the demonstrators were throwing bricks and smashing windows and beating each other up. Some dude got stabbed. No joke. And now they're like, wait. Demonstrators? Charged with riot? Yeah, that's where we're at. The troopers will return to their regular assignments elsewhere in the Willamette Valley, along the coast and in southern and eastern Oregon, where police staffing already is limited, Fox said. The Oregon State Police is continually reassessing our resources and the needs of our partner agencies. And at this time, we are inclined to move those resources back to counties where prosecution of criminal conduct is still a priority. Oh, I feel bad. I feel so bad for these cops, man. I feel for these cops. Look, these are state police. They're not local beat cops. They're off on the coast. They're not in the big cities. They drive on highways. I understand. You get a ticket. It's annoying. You got a busted headlight. They pull you over. Sometimes you have a negative experience with cops. But come on, man. These guys came out here to stop violent rioters. I want to repeat something I tweeted and I said in another video. What bootlicking is not. Asking officers to end violent riots. What bootlicking is. Businesses getting repeatedly smashed up, then still saying they support Black Lives Matter. These Black Lives Matter riots are going nuts. I'm sorry, man. It's mostly in Portland. I get it. But we saw Richmond the other day. Chicago had mass looting and then protests. It's going to keep happening. So long as these district attorneys and prosecutors keep saying, nope, we're not going to prosecute. Now I feel bad for the cops. They're like, you mean I went? It's almost like this. You ever play a video game and you get really far in it and you forget and you don't save and then the game crashes or you die and then you're like, you got to start over and all that progress is lost. I don't know if that problem still exists for the most part. I mean, actually it could with a lot of games. And then you just put the controller down. You're like, I don't even want to play. I don't even want to play right now. All of my progress is gone. Nah, okay, whatever. I'm out. Or it's something like that. The cops come in. They're like, we're making arrests. We're stopping the violent criminals. Finally. And then the DA is just like, free to go. And they show up the next day and you're like, everything we did yesterday. Some officer had a severe injury to his hand. They said it was a severe injury. I hope I hope he's going to be okay. But that sounds like he may lose the use of a hand, perhaps a severe injury. I wonder what that entails. Officers have been burned. One officer got whiplash and a concussion because a giant rock, it was a massive rock, hit him in the head. And all of that for what? For nothing. I feel bad, man. They say state police were sent to Portland on July 30th under an agreement between Governor Kate Brown and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to try to curtail the clashes throughout the month between federal officers and some protesters. There was no clashes, between protesters who were singing Kumbaya. And they're not literally singing Kumbaya. You get the point. It was a riot. They say outside the courthouse, officers fired tear gas and impact munitions at the crowds after some people lobbed commercial fireworks, glass bottles, paint-filled balloons, and other objects at them over the fortified fence or tried to damage the fence of the building. They tore the fence down several times. It's unclear what the department will mean at the federal courthouse, at the federal courthouse as the city enters the 78th night of consecutive demonstrations against police brutality and systemic racism since I'm sorry, I'm not playing your stupid game, Oregon Live. They're not protesting for anything. They're just out smashing, and they're getting away with it. There is no message, and Black Lives Matter leaders, NAACP leaders, have straight up said, what are they doing? We don't even know what they're doing or why they're doing it. What are they protesting for? Literally, we had an activist the other day say, what do they want? We're getting the things we want. What do they want? They just want to riot. But the media covers for them by saying it's the noble, protest movement to end racism. No, it isn't. Shut up. They say U.S. Department of Justice Attorney Jordan Von Bokern wrote in a legal brief filed Wednesday that the Federal Protective Service will begin to release the DHS component law enforcement personnel who are currently assigned to protecting the courthouse and other federal buildings when Homeland Security leadership determines that the security of federal facilities in Portland is no longer at risk. The Trump administration sent special tactical agents and other officers from Homeland Security agencies to Portland after people targeted the courthouse and shattered its glass front doors in early July, broke windows and covered it in graffiti, set fires, cut their way inside. And it was after they broke into the courthouse on the 39th night of rioting that the DHS actually deployed tactical forces. Under Brown's agreement, state police took over primary law enforcement responsibility for the property around and within the temporary fence line around the federal courthouse. State police also said they would respond to crimes directed at the courthouse on the nearby Edith Green Weddell Wyatt Federal Building. Federal officers have mostly stayed inside the courthouse. Once state police took over control of the front portico of the courthouse, once state police took over the front portico of the courthouse and generally stayed out of sight, a group of protesters turned attention to Portland precincts in Northeast and Southeast Portland and the police union headquarters in North Portland. They're admitting it. There was never peace. They were just looking for a fight. And when they couldn't get it from the feds, they went and tried to burn down other buildings. Yes, literally what happened. And when they couldn't get the fight from the Portland police, they went to residential neighborhoods. No justice, no sleep. And then they came back to the courthouse once again looking for a fight. State police came out, overwhelmed. They can't prosecute these criminals. So they said, we over it. We done. State police helped Portland police disperse crowds in those locations after people threw objects and set fires at the police union office. And some tried to barricade a front door to the East Precinct. Yeah. And the mayor said that these Black Lives Matter, extremists were trying to murder the police because they blocked the exits of the police building and tried to set fire to the building. He called it attempted murder. And you can't arrest these people? Oh, I'm sorry. You can arrest them. You can't prosecute these people, man. Don't vote for these people anymore, man. Oregon State Police Superintendent Travis Hampton was in Portland every night of the 2 weeks that troopers were assigned to Portland. He was the commander in charge of the troopers on the ground and believed his presence was important if he's going to put his troopers in harm's way. Check this out. State police released this photo of a rock that struck a trooper's helmet, causing a concussion during Wednesday night's protests. You kidding me? Protests? They whipped a giant rock at one of the cops' heads and gave him a concussion, and you're calling it a protest. Man, these people are nuts. Clashes returned to the city's downtown late Wednesday when some people gathered on the streets outside the federal courthouse and Multnomah County Justice Center. After about 90 minutes of speeches on the steps of the Justice Center by Black community representatives, a crowd of a couple hundred assembled outside the federal courthouse. A short time later, several people began lobbing fireworks and bottles over the courthouse fence, and Portland police advanced on demonstrators. Amazing. They literally are like, people started throwing explosives and bottles, but they were just demonstrating, using tear gas to move them away after declaring unlawful assemblies and a riot. They literally declared a riot, and Oregon Live is still so pathetic. It's so pathetic. You know, you try so hard to defend these lunatics, Oregon Live. It is sad. Sad. A state trooper took a rock to the helmet during the confrontation and suffered a concussion. Hampton said later Thursday that the agency was honored to be assigned by the governor to help with security for the federal courthouse. But the movement of about 100 troopers from all over the state to Portland came at the cost to rural communities. Hampton praised his troopers. Policing large crowd events that routinely turn violent is one of the most challenging aspects of law enforcement. But our troopers met the challenge nightly with our colleagues at the Portland Police Bureau and Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. Our troopers sustained frequent injury and handled the most difficult of circumstances with restraint and professionalism in service to the citizens and visitors of Portland. He said he would continue to assess subsequent resource demands with Portland Police Chief Chuck Lovell. Von Bokern, the Justice Department lawyer, wrote in court papers that federal officers' engagement with protesters had diminished to practically nothing in the past 2 weeks. Whether that will change will be closely watched now that state police buffer is gone. State police also had served as the liaison between Portland Police and Federal Protective Service after the Portland City Council prohibited local police from communicating. It's so insane. They want it to happen. I'm sorry, man. The Democrats are doing this on purpose. You cannot convince me otherwise at this point. They straight up said not to prosecute. That was on purpose. They straight up said to the police, do not coordinate with the feds. That was intentional. It's like they want the riots. They want the looting and burning. I don't understand it because it's going to help Trump. Trump said suburban housewives are going to vote for him because they want security and safety. So what do you think happens when these fringe lunatics march through their neighborhood chanting no justice, no sleep? It's like they're doing everything in their power to make sure everybody votes for Donald Trump. Or it's just that they are completely inept. And they have this dainty hippie view of, if we just let the children tire themselves out, eventually it'll go away. It's actually what they said. Several of them have argued, you gotta let them relax and get bored and disperse. It's like, that's true to a certain extent. That's true of some protesters. But not when you're on night 76 of rioting. At this point, your only option is for prosecution of the extremists. You can let them protest, but the people who are throwing the explosives, who are agitating, you arrest. And then what you do is you say, we will not tolerate violent rioting, and these people are besmirching the good name of the protesters. So we're going to arrest them. I'll tell you what, man, I think it's fair to say early on, you can try to make sure you don't escalate tensions. And if you've got a protest starting, you stand back and you make sure not to escalate. But come on, man. At the 39th night of rioting, I can understand why the feds came in. But now we're on night 76 and you still can't prosecute? That's insane. We fully support the peaceful protest. It's just when it turns to violence, and now, without the support of the Multnomah County DA, that puts our officers nightly at risk, said Tanya Henderson, president of the Oregon State Police Officers Association, a union of about 820 members that includes troopers, dispatchers, forensic and evidence technicians, and fleet managers. Schmidt announced Tuesday that the district attorney's office won't pursue charges of interfering with police, disorderly conduct, criminal trespass, escape, or harassment if the allegations don't involve deliberate property damage, theft, or force against another person or threats of force stemming from protests. The office also won't prosecute people on a riot accusation alone. Prosecutors will proceed with a riot case only if it includes an accompanying allegation of specific property damage or use of force. Absolutely stunning. They also said, even if they assault a peace officer, they'll consider the heat of the moment, the chaos of a protest environment. Okay, if a cop is going to arrest somebody in a riot, then I can understand, there may need to be more evidence. So sure, look, freedom over security. At a certain point, when you have a large group of people that are coordinated, they're acting in concert, They're wearing the same clothes. They share the same goals. At a certain point, you can say they're acting as a gang, I guess. They have their plans are relatively obvious. You can't prosecute these people? Apparently not. So I'll tell you what. Will it get worse? Of course it will get worse. Look at this. I love this one. Governor Kate Brown. I'm appalled by the callous actions of the Trump administration yesterday in Bend, Oregon, the city, to target immigrant communities and forcefully disperse a crowd of concerned community members and clergy who for hours held the line against injustice. Shut up, you pathetic, insufferable, and incompetent politician. I am sick of this, okay? I'm sorry. To come out and complain that yesterday or the day before, ICE agents were transporting criminals and people tried to stop it. You're calling that holding the line against injustice? Just enough. Enough. We can see the videos with our own eyes, and the media is doing everything in their power to try and act like it's not happening. Now that the feds have withdrawn, Portland is mostly peaceful. I love it. Mostly peaceful. I love it. Largely peaceful, they say. How absolutely ridiculous. The politicians and the leaders of the state and city are complete and utter failures. And it's not about whether or not the police should arrest or the prosecutors should prosecute. It's about the fact that take everything away and you've got 76 nights of violent riots and they cannot stop it. Well, that's on them. And you know what? Maybe the people of Portland need to have a wake-up call. Maybe 76 nights will be enough for them to say, I'm going to vote for a different political party because these people are incompetent or they're willfully in allowing this to happen. Now, that's Portland for you. I'll tell you what, it's going to be real interesting to see what happens now because it was a couple hundred people at the federal courthouse doing the same thing they've always done. No feds. What's the narrative now for the national level Democrats and these pundits to say that it was Trump's Gestapo? And what happens now when they say, please, Trump, come back? What happens now when the feds do come out and they say Trump's secret police are back? And Trump simply says, well, the police pulled out. They're not prosecuting anybody. So we had no choice. There's no police here. What do you think is going to what do you think regular voters are going to hear when they hear the state police are retreating? The Portland police can't stop this. They've been barred from communicating with the feds. And the only one who's standing up to the violent crime is Donald Trump. These Democrats have lost their minds. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.